Well, well, well. Learn to code. Who remembers that moniker from I want to say it was mid to late aughts? Maybe even some parts of the early aughts. This has been a thing that's been being pushed for a while, quite literally. I know that this certainly I guess hits close to home for me because it's the same moniker that I also sort of believed. If I learn how to be a decent programmer, that means I'm gonna have a decent six-figure salary. And well, here I am making fucking YouTube videos to maybe 1 to 2 people on the fucking internet. So, well, shows you where I am. Thank you, Learn to Code. I've talked about this concept before about the problems with the tech industry is because of this sort of do I want to say propaganda? More like an advertisement campaign, I would say, of learn to code, getting more people into programming. It made a lot of people get into the field. Now, I've gone over a video before from Polymatter. I'm sort of I guess this is my a preamble into this topic of learn to code that hits a little close to home for me. I've looked at this before. Yes, originally we took a look at Polymatter on the Hong Kong video talking about the speculative real estate assets and speculative real estate market that the Chinese have established in Hong Kong. The history for Polymatter. It was a good video, blah, 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 blah. The sort of problem that I have with learn to code is the fact that, and this is something that I noticed immediately, because there was a lot of layoffs that happened throughout the IT industry in Canada, pretty much all of last year. Huge layoff waves that were constantly happening. And now, whenever I try to go to apply for jobs for any positions anywhere, there's always 100 plus applicants on every job. There are so many coders, developers, I guess technicians as well. Not to say that there isn't any need for these positions. The problem is that there are a shit ton of them. There are so many of them. And I don't really sort of know that I don't really sort of know the extent of the numbers. I know that it was a lot. And a lot of people were swept up in this sort of I'm going to say just advertisement wave of learn to code as a byproduct of these emerging sort of tech sectors and markets throughout the I would say late aughts, early 2010s. As a result, we all know about Obama saying oh, you wanna have a good paying job, learn how to program, right? And yeah, like you're saying, Boy Meets Mini, those layoff waves aren't rational. It's just a market frenzy to minimize risk. Exactly. I do believe, actually, that this video goes into that. And yeah, more or less, these companies have probably realized at this point, there are all these developers that are talented out there. Who cares? There's a huge labor pool of it. Simple Econ 101 stuff, supply and demand. We don't need a ton of developers right now, but there are so many of them, so we can afford to lay off a bunch of them constantly. Because again, whoa, the whole learn to code sort of frenzy, it was all just a fucking marketing ploy to begin with. But let's get into the more nitty gritty, I suppose.
Between 2011 and 21, the number of computer science graduates at UC Berkeley increased by 1,106%. If this trend continues, as one professor observes, all 30,000 of its undergrads will study computer science in just 7 years. By 2059, the school will churn out more computer scientists than there are people in California. Meanwhile, get this, there are fewer software developers employed in the United States today than there were 6 years ago.
Yeah, I wonder why. It's almost as if there doesn't need to be that many. Yeah, it's almost as if there didn't need to be that many. And this is all just a fucking complete marketing ploy to begin with. I've talked about this before, but the US, in terms of its transitions from a sort of more rudimentary sort of export economy to a more tech servicey sort of service economy that's based significantly around tech, it obviously made quite a lot of changes in terms of the economy throughout like the sort of the 80s and the 90s as a result, right? That's not ridiculous to say in particular. The problem is like there is no way ever there was going to be enough positions for all those people in order to take all those jobs, right? It was a complete like sort of market frenzy that was sort of ginned up by like politicians and other people in power in order to be like, hey, you know what's gonna make like our polling numbers look really good? Oh, if we get a bunch of people into tech. That's why. And guess what? A lot of people got fucked over because of it, because it was just a really, really hasty transition. That's the main problem here. The transition was extremely hasty, and wow, it wasn't like well planned out to begin with. Crazy. And they wanted to mostly, and it was mostly just a service to a lot of burgeoning sort of like tech sector companies. You know, your Microsofts of the world, or Oracles, you know, a bunch of other places, right?
Clearly, something has gone terribly wrong. And Berkeley isn't even the most computer science-obsessed university. Not even close. This is UCB, this is Caltech, and this is MIT. You're not reading this wrong. A full 40% of the school that once helped invent the radar, spreadsheet, and lithium-ion battery studies the same one subject. Last year, a grand total of 7 students graduated from MIT with a Bachelor of Science in Chemistry. 266 majored in computer science and engineering. And that's not even its largest CS major. Electrical engineering and computer science is over twice as popular. Over the past 15 years, US college...
Dude, I can't tell you just how many people I had in my... Because I initially studied computer science. A lot of stuff I'm going to say here is mostly going to be anecdotal. I can't tell you just how many, like, people there were in my first year comp sci courses. There was... I went to Carleton. Carleton, not exactly, like, the most, like, comp sci sort of school in Canada. There was, like, in my first year classes, between both classes, about, like, the lecture halls were always packed. And the lecture halls that we went to, it was one of the biggest ones on campus. Houses about, like, I think, like, 200 people. They were always pretty much packed to the brim during first year. And there was, there was 2 classes each. So that's about 400 students. About 400 students, yeah?
Have transformed from multidisciplinary institutions of higher education to Microsoft training programs that also dabble in philosophy and physics on the side. In 2023, Berkeley joined MIT and Cornell in even creating an entire college of computing, its first new school since Eisenhower was president. It's not hard to see how we ended up here. The iPhone was released in 2007. Uber, Airbnb, and Instagram soon after.
Bro, the
America's
iPhone,
cultural center of gravity was shifting from stuffy Wall Street boardrooms to youthful Bay Area garages. Shows like The Social Network and Silicon Valley mythologize the tech founder. The 21st century's more meritocratic, more visionary.
Dude, the amount of fucking times that American media always seems to fucking play in terms of what the job market is so fucking stupid, dude. Like, I fucking hate this shit so much. Yeah, also meritocratic, quote unquote. Yeah, totally. It's so silly. Like, the fact that a bunch, like, American media and, like, movies and shit like that is, like, a prompter at this point for, like, how the people get into, like, STEM and shit like that. I think it's just, like, really, just a complete, like, It's a really easy avenue for fucking exploitation, right? Like quite literally, because like anyone can say anything in terms of like how things are presented in a particular media like environment or whatever. Not talking about the difficulties or if like these sort of like jobs and positions are like necessarily suitable for you. They just say like, dude, just like get in, bro. It's like totally heckin' cool and epic. And look at how, like, awesome the lives of these people are. And, like, whoa, heckin' epic and cool. And it's just like, nah, dude. Like, programming is fucking hard. You need to be built for that shit. Or you don't necessarily have to be built for that shit. You can learn how to do it, obviously, and get good at programming. That's not, like, you know. Obviously, that can be the fucking case. But to say it's like this like completely like luxurious lifestyle, it's like an easy fucking ticket. It's like all those fucking get rich fucking quick fucking schemes, right? Exact same behavior.
more eccentric answer to the industrial tycoons of the past. Then, our nation's leaders endorsed programming with their official seal of approval, elevating it from a promising new career to the future. While in office, President Obama called coding a ticket to the middle class. The White House celebrated Computer Science Education Week, promoted Hour of Code, and warned of a dire shortfall of 1 million STEM graduates by 2022. New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg even announced he personally would learn to code in 2012, although there's no evidence he ever did. There was something for everyone in that 3-word mantra, learn to code.
Dude, it would have been so, like, just the thought and idea of fucking Bloomberg learning how to code just sounds like so fucking funny to me, dude. Like, yeah, that fucking complete moron. Yeah, totally, dude. That guy's definitely gonna know. Yeah, like, if you don't get, like, good professors and you don't get, like, good training, like you're saying, Boy Meets Mini, like, the experience can just, like, completely vary. And that was, like, one of the main reasons why because I used to be in computer science, right? I used to be in CS. And, like, it just wasn't for me. And I wasn't getting, like, the, I don't know, the teaching that I really needed in order to be successful. And guess what? As a result, I guess I decided to go into IT. Whoa, crazy. But yeah, just saying like forehead. Yeah, anyone. Let me be clear. Anyone can get into coding. Let me tell you, folks. Is this complete nonsense?
This directive neatly aligned with their vision for more vocational, career-oriented education. For corporations, it promised a steady supply of skilled labor. Labor, I might add, that came pre-trained at taxpayer expense. For national security hawks, coding helped strengthen America's global power, enabling it to outcompete China. If diversity was more your cup of tea, one could tell a pretty convincing story about how this was really all about expanding opportunity. And for Democrats steering the economy through the Great Recession, Learn to Code sounded empowering, hopeful, and most importantly, vague enough to absorb virtually any of the difficult questions posed by globalization at an especially fraught moment.
Yeah, of course, which fucking Obama significantly failed at because he decided to just give, like, all the fucking, instead of bailing out the homeowners, he decided to fucking bail out the corporations, right? One of the main reasons for as to why he fucking him and his dumbass fucking lost, right? So, again, like, when I say that all of this was just, like, complete fucking utter bullshit, it wasn't, like, entirely bullshit, right? Like, the skills you learn from programming and coding are obviously valuable. The main issue, generally speaking, is the fact that, you know, hey, the thing is that saying that it was like the be all end all and that was going to be the sort of main ticket to like a middle class fucking existence is probably like the biggest fucking problem that I'm having, because it was a sham. It was pure fucking marketing ploy done by fucking politicians at the behest of a lot of fucking tech corporations. That's the main fucking issue here. Because they made it seem like, oh yeah, dude, it's like totally fucking easy to just learn how to code, forehead. And it's just like, no, not really. That shit's actually pretty fucking tough. And guess what? If you're not fucking built for it and you're trying to like completely do this a ridiculously hasty transition of the economy, guess what? Not everyone's going to be able to adapt, and fucking people are going to get left behind as a result. So, you know, that's cool. Thanks, Obama. Thank you, Democrats. Thank you, Republicans. Thank you, politicians, for giving into the whims of your stupid tech oligarch masters.
Layoffs, automation, outsourcing? Not to worry. If we all just rolled up our sleeves and, say it with me, learn to code. Red and
God, I
blue
remember
alike
all those
rushed
fucking
to teach
things,
Python
dude.
and JavaScript in classrooms. Today, nearly 15,000 U.S. high schools offer computer science classes. Even 37% of middle schools do. 11 states go even further, requiring all students take a computer...
I mean, here's the thing. I don't think this is a bad thing necessarily, right? I think this is fine, you know? I think it's a valuable thing to, like, teach people to help them learn with, right? You just have to acknowledge that, guess what? Saying that this is going to be the complete basis for the economy, nah, Chief. It won't. It just won't. Because it's just not going to work out for everyone.
Science class to graduate. Absent any dissenting voices, there was every incentive to exaggerate the ease of coding and romanticize the life of a programmer.
Yep.
Obama told us just about anyone can become a computer scientist, quote, with a little hard work. Years later, President Biden echoed this sentiment in his signature no-nonsense tone.
Anybody who can throw coal into a furnace can learn how to program, for God's sake.
One popular article from 2012, when U.S. unemployment was still well over 8%, declared, to anyone out there who says you can't get a job, you can have one, a fun one. Learning code is not about numbers and mathematics. It's more like architecture. Well, young Americans didn't...
Dude, I hate this fucking weird fucking language. Dude, it's like totally heckin' epic and awesome sauce to learn how to fucking code. Like, think about how heckin' super epic-areno and totally, tube-tacular learning how to code is. Like, that fucking language fucking triggers the fuck out of me, dude. Because it's not easy to code. It's difficult. You know? Just saying, like, oh, dude, like, just literally go into an IDE, pull up your fucking JavaScript, and just, like, make some lines, bro. It's like, nah, that's not how that works, dude. Just simply put, not how that works.
Twice. Younger millennials and older Gen Z looked around, saw their siblings struggle to find work after the Great Recession, and decided they'd take the cool job that lets you earn 6 figures working from a beanbag while wearing a hoodie, requires a bachelor's degree at most, and is apparently remarkably quick and easy to learn. Please? But although Microsoft and Facebook...
And today it's just like vibe code, bro. You have to debug so much shit vibe code tools do. Yeah, like I can't even like imagine how much of a fucking pain in the ass it is. But like again, a lot of people are not being given like a sort of accurate representation of what programming is because again, American media and a lot of these institutions are like saying like, bro, like it's like totally heckin' easy and super epic-areno and like a big chungus wholesome epic style to know how to fucking program and code. Like you'll get all the bitches on your dick. You're gonna be like so heckin' cool, dude. It's like that's not how exactly that works, dude. Like coding is a skill that has to be honed throughout a very long time. You can't just say it's gonna be like I don't know, super epic fucking awesome sauce and shit like that. Get the fuck out of here with this bullshit.
And Apple were ready for this massive influx of programmers. Universities most certainly were not. The popularity of college majors, of course, fluctuates all the time. Seasoned law school admissions officers still remember the sudden rise in applications following the hit 80s drama LA Law, just as pharmacy school briefly became popular during the early 2000s pharmacist shortage. But the computer science boom was something else entirely. The basic...
Yeah, like, this is the stuff I was mentioning earlier. The fact that fucking American media plays a fucking role into like how popular like certain fucking fields can get is fucking insane to me, dude. Like this should really not, this is something that should not be the fucking case. But yeah, you know, we love the strength and power of Hollywood and shit like that, you know. That's like pushing people into sort of positions of like into like careers they may not be able to necessarily excel in because it's just like, well, dude, this is like what we've been told to like fucking totally heckin' get into, dude. Because like, guys, you're telling me that given the current economic malaise that we are in, like there's like a pretty easy like get rich quick scheme in order to be able to get into like a comfortable sort of like middle class existence. Hell yeah, dude.
Problem for schools was this. While the total number of undergraduate CS students tripled in just 10 years, the number of PhD students who become professors has stayed more or less the same. The reason for this is no mystery.
And
a
because it's
PhD
hard.
student can expect to receive a $40,000 a year stipend, if they're lucky. That same student can easily earn $200,000 or more at Amazon or Netflix. In other words, there isn't anyone to teach all those undergraduates. The result in many computer science departments is an impersonal, factory-like experience. Professors are perpetually stressed and invariably overworked. Class sizes are massive, 4, 5, 600 students in introductory courses. Undergrads are even deputized.
Yeah, literally, this was the exact same thing that I mentioned earlier. Like, it was really hard in first year to get into contact with, like, my fucking professors and shit. Because, again, I used to be in CS before, going into fucking IT. Do you know how difficult it was to get into contact with any of my fucking professors if I had questions about stuff? They would take, like, days sometimes to, like, get back to my emails and shit like that because there was a lot of them. Like I said before, in my introductory, like, CS courses, it was about, like, give or take, like, 400 people, I think. It was about 400, I think. I don't remember the numbers 100% for certain, but it was around there. But yeah, like, am I supposed to be shocked that there was always like shortages of TAs? There was like literally a fucking strike about this. Well, mostly also because the TAs hardly get fucking paid, right? TA pay is fucking dog shit as well. That's another factor that they don't fucking tell you as well. Not only is TA pay really bad, but also another issue is the fact that there are just so many students that they have to like look after, and it's just like, logistically speaking, it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work.
As TAs, meaning the person who took this class last semester might be the only person you can ask questions. And yet, schools still turn eager students away. It's become common at many universities to make students reapply to their computer science program at the end of their first or second year, for example. At Swarthmore, the University of Maryland, and UCSD, students are entered into a lottery, meaning you can apply and be accepted to Swarthmore, not...
Yeah, I didn't have to go through that because around the start of second year in computer science, that's when I decided, yeah, it was just not for me. And that was when I pretty much decided to leave. Leave computer science at that point. But, you know, cool, epic, fantastic. Because I was just like, it turns out I'm not really actually a big fan of all this coding shit. So, yeah.
To mention, pay just over $90,000 a year, only to later be denied access to your preferred major by random number. Needless to say, this leaves many students feeling disillusioned with the college experience. They graduate with debt, with little career help from their school, whose resources are spread thin, and with minimal, if any, contact with their professors along the way. On top...
Guys, it's almost as if, like, using media campaigns in order to get people into... Actually, guys, this is kind of a difficult... Guys, this is actually kind of a difficult, tough field to get into. Might not actually be a good thing.
On top of all that, many of these students feel they were inadequately prepared for the job market. Because many CS programs have their origins in math and engineering departments, their curricula often focus more on the how, the general algorithms, ways of thinking, and processes, than the what, the specific syntax, programming languages that are currently marketable, or skills tested in modern job interviews. Graduates will often have dabbled in half a dozen languages, but truly mastered none, forcing them to learn on their own. It wasn't hard to imagine there might be a better way.
Oh, dude, I can't, like... I can totally fucking attest to this. Funnily enough, in the first year comp sci sort of, in the first year comp sci, programming courses, I think 2 different languages were discussed. One was doing Python, because it's like professor preference for as to, which sort of, it was professor preference, which, I'm trying to think, like, what the term is. IDE they wanted to go into. That's the term I was looking for. It was their preference. One decided to go with Python, and the other one decided to go with, it's like a Java-based language called processing. But basically it was Java. But yeah, it was Java, I think is probably the sort of, like, more correct, technically speaking, the sort of more technically speaking correct description. It was basically just Java. And basically, like, I think in the second year courses, you went to do C, and there was another course in the second semester where it was either, again, Java and under the same thing called processing. And depending on the courses that you take, because you took, like, certain, like, STEM, like, not STEM, but sometimes you could take, like, a certain streams. That's the term I'm looking for. Into, yeah, you can take this sort of stream, which focuses on game development, or this, which focuses on databases, or for example, or you could take this stream, which focuses on this stuff, blah, 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 shit like that, right? And from there, it also, like, varies very, very wildly as to, like, what can be sort of, not done, but sort of as to what the, differing sort of courses would have for you. So, one course would talk about, like, SQL, one course would talk about, I guess I'm now, like, sort of referencing the IT program I was in. So what? One was like SQL, one was like JavaScript, one was like CSS, PHP, like general sort of web development, differing other like networks like you work with. It was so all over the place. Overall, it was meant to like sort of focus on this overall, but it was trying to like sort of like, well, pick and choose certain parts so you have like some experience and everything, but you're not necessarily 100% a master. So then you'd have to like do a lot of learning on the fly and stuff like that. It was always a complete utter shit show, which I always found to be extremely annoying, to be honest.
And this being the era of, quote, disrupting outdated industries like taxis, hotels, and DVD stores, the proposed solution was wrapped in lofty emancipatory language. Education was about to be revolutionized.
Dude, I fucking hate this goddamn sort of like, dude, we're totally like heckin' epic disruptors, bro. We're like here to like super heckin' epic arena disrupt, bro. We're the disruptors, dude. It's just like, bro, God, I fucking hate that shit so much. It's so dumb and annoying. Like, ugh.
Universities out-innovated. Enter the coding bootcamp. The idea was simple. If you already knew what you wanted, a 6-figure job at Amazon, you could forego the 4-year computer science degree, pay just $10 or $20 or $30,000, and learn to code in a fraction of the time, usually 12 weeks or less. By stripping out general education requirements and teaching to the test, tech interviews often ask the same set of questions, they promised a streamlined, more efficient, and more accessible route to the promised land. At their peak, hundreds of boot camps graduated nearly half as many students as 4-year computer science programs, and took in north of $200 million a year. But as they grew, as they began appearing on billboards and in TV commercials, and attracting a wider and wider group of students, they began feeling many of the same strains as universities.
That's fucking hilarious. It's like, fuck. God damn it. We were not expecting this many people. Sheeball. Shit, guys. That's so fucking funny that eventually you're just like, guys, there's kind of too many people here. Shit, dude. That's so fucking funny to me, dude.
First, they realized their students were lending at least as much of their reputation to them as they were to students. In other words, if one of them failed an interview or was fired, that employer or recruiter would remember and associate their performance with a bootcamp on their resume, making it harder for future students to land jobs there. Silicon Valley, after all, is a small world. Most students are looking for work from one of just 5 companies. Thus, they began carefully guarding their reputations, selecting only those applicants who enhanced their brand. One bootcamp, Hack Reactor, for instance, has an acceptance rate of just 3%.
Yeah, because keep in mind, I'm pretty sure all of these like boot camp fucking companies, they're definitely all a bunch of fucking private corporations. 1,000 fucking %. So, yeah, that's funny. That is fucking funny, dude. You love to see it. You love to see it, folks. They're all a bunch of private institutions. Guys, it's almost as if I'm just gonna have to throw this out here. This might be a bit of a sort of like a radical stance, but it turns out maybe, just maybe, that having the sort of like a private sort of institutions of education might be a bad thing. I'm just saying, it might be bad that this is the case, guys. Now, what I might be saying is a little radical, a little ridiculous. Maybe I'm just being a little bit of an extremist, but it turns out that private education, it's kind of bad, guys. It's kind of bad.
About the same as Harvard. Another problem was a lack of teachers. Also, like universities, boot camps struggled to compete with the salaries on offer by big tech, often resorting to hiring their own recent graduates who couldn't find work elsewhere, inflating their employment figures in the process. Finally, they faced pressure to raise tuition. Initially, boot camps pitched themselves to investors much like WeWork did, as software companies. They could develop their curriculum once and then churn through students with zero marginal cost. But like WeWork, reality turned out to be more complex. In
Whoa,
practice,
who would have thought?
boot camps are either little more than classrooms filled with textbooks, in which case they don't offer much that those same textbooks alone can't for a fraction of the cost, or they're highly structured, personable, guided experiences in small, intimate settings, in which case that's expensive. As the number of students grows, you'll need to keep hiring new teachers by definition to maintain the same student-to-teacher ratio. If anything, the marginal cost went up. Later students, attracted by their increasingly get-rich-quick style marketing, had less familiarity with and less interest in programming, and therefore...
Yeah, and that's pretty much the main thing that I sort of like pointed out. The problem is the fact that this was sort of like treated with like a get-rich-quick sort of like mentality, right? When that is like probably the worst attitude to sort of like treat this as, that's like the main fucking problem. When it's just like, no, in order to be a skilled programmer, there's a lot of skills that you need to learn and hone. It is very, very difficult to be an effective programmer. It is not fucking easy. There's a lot of learning. There's a lot of steep curves, lots of things that you need to know how to do in order to be an effective programmer. But, you know, do corporations give a shit about any of that stuff? Not really.
Required more guidance than their earlier, more intrinsically motivated peers. Just to maintain the same outcomes, therefore, boot camps had to raise prices. And that's a problem when students are paying out of pocket. Boot camps wanted in on those sweet taxpayer-funded federal student loans. But as unaccredited institutions, they weren't eligible. Meanwhile, for reasons we've covered in previous videos, colleges found themselves short on cash. They needed a slice of that sweet boot camp revenue. But they aren't very good at recruiting non-traditional students. And the Higher Education Act of 1965 prevented them from paying third parties for bringing them students, after those incentives led to aggressive and misleading marketing. Except that in 2011, the Department of Education created a loophole. Schools could pay third parties to bring them students if those payments were part of a larger bundle of services, of which recruiting was only one part. In other words, as long as a school didn't call these payments kickbacks, they now had a green light. A university would partner with what they called an OPM, an online program manager. This was the boot camp. The OPM would create the curriculum, hire the teachers, and recruit the students, which the university would then slap its name on, usually for a 40% cut. As far as the government was concerned, these programs were accredited, so boot camps got access to student loans. Students saw a trusted 100-year-old brand name, not some random fly-by-night boot camp. And universities could get away with what was otherwise illegal. Put differently, boot camps became more and more like the unwieldy, inefficient four-year universities they originally sought to disrupt, until they were swallowed whole by those very same universities.
Whoa.
Now, this more or less worked through the pandemic, when growth in the tech industry.
Whoa, guys, it's almost as if, you know, and this might be a fucking completely like radical idea. You know, we may be doing a little bit of trolling here. It's almost as if, hey, privatization of all these educational institutions might be a bad thing, because eventually, hey, guess what? Monopolization becomes a fucking thing. Whoa, who would have thought? Whoa, ain't no fucking way, guys. The inevitable thing fucking happened. Whoa, crazy. Isn't it crazy, guys, that the inevitable fucking thing happened. Yeah. And that's pretty much like the sort of like main thing to sort of like point out here is the fact that this was treated, a very difficult skill to learn was treated as a fucking get-rich-quick scheme was the main fucking problem here. Now, anecdote again, I went into STEM because I was already like, I already sort of liked tech, generally speaking. And I liked computers, I liked working with computers, so I figured like, oh, well, you know, maybe I could be successful in doing this or whatever. Sure, yeah. Yeah, man. Cool. And so I thought that was like a sort of fine thing for me to like get into. The issue is that, and this is like probably like broadly speaking the biggest problem is I kind of like fell for the fucking narrative that and how I put it to myself when I fucking like was getting into like STEM and whatnot was, you know, I can do this because I can get like a pretty good job, right? And yeah, like I can get like a good position, right? And sure, why not? Like, yeah, I think this could probably go pretty well for me. And as a result, whoa, crazy, yeah. I basically got caught in a bunch of, I don't know, I basically got caught up in like the sort of like propaganda sort of swirl about this, saying like, yeah, basically, is it like propaganda swirl? I guess like that's probably correct to say. The whole sort of like propaganda wave saying like, dude, if you want to get into like the a successful career, join fucking STEM, bro. Become a STEM bro, and you'll totally be able to have like a pretty good life for yourself. When that's just like, it's just not the fucking case, right? It's harder than ever now in order to be able to get like a position in fucking STEM fields because of the fact that, hey, whoa, crazy. There's a lot of people in the fucking goddamn, well, that are applying to these goddamn positions. That's the main fucking problem here. It's insane.
Industry was off the charts, and companies raced to hoard as much labor as possible. In one 2023 Wall Street Journal profile, a woman said she was paid $190,000 a year by Meta to do almost nothing, presumably because aggressive hiring at the time was rewarded by investors and competition for talent fierce. Then came the inevitable crash. Nearly 500,000 tech workers were laid off in 2023 alone. Another 250,000 lost their jobs once in 2022.
Yeah, they're all
and again
DEI
in
hires,
2024.
actually. That's true.
In total, that's roughly the number of U.S. manufacturing jobs lost from the early 2000s China shock. The unemployment rate in tech is now higher than the national average. Recent graduates have had their offers rescinded, and many professors, including this one at Berkeley, one of the most well-known computer science programs in the nation, report that even their best students can't find jobs. Boot camps are doing even worse.
Dude, I can't fucking find a goddamn... Like, finding a job right now is, like, good fucking luck, dude. I've had, like... During the 8 months I've been fucking unemployed at this point, it's been fucking, like, almost 8 months at this point, I've gotten, like, 2 or 3 interviews. No, 2 pre-screenings and 1 interview. Yeah, 2 pre-screenings and 1 interview. It sucks out there right now, man. It's just so fucking bad, dude.
If they still exist at all. One, called 2U, declared bankruptcy last year. Launch Academy announced it would pause enrollment. And Dev Bootcamp, which was acquired by education giant Kaplan, closed its doors forever. It all happened remarkably fast. It seems like only yesterday that tech was the future. Not so long ago, the White House predicted a shortfall of 1 million STEM workers by 2022. Instead, there are fewer software developers in the United States today than there were 6 years ago.
Jesus.
How did this happen? Well, it's not rocket science. Learn to code, meet another 3-word mantra, supply and demand. Recall that in just 10 years, the number
Not
of computer
Econ
science grads at Berkeley
101.
increased by over
No,
1,000%.
curses.
This was always unsustainable. Now, to be clear, Learn to Code didn't cause this recent downturn. In 2022, US interest rates rose to their highest level in 15 years, from nearly 0% to well over 5%. And the tech industry is unusually exposed to this number. Making software requires massive upfront investment. When the cost of borrowing goes up, making software becomes a lot more expensive. But there's no doubt that the oversupply of programmers, driven by Learn to Code, made workers more expendable in the eyes of employers. When programmers are so abundant, it's a whole lot easier to fire them on demand.
Dude, this is the exact same fucking attitude that the games industry has, right? Thanks, Learn to Code, right? How many people have gone into fucking, like, not games journalism, but games development because of Learn to Code? Oh, you're telling me I can, like, learn how to fucking program on my, like, heckin' epic favorite video game arenas, dude? Oh, fuck yeah. Sign me up, dude. Like, there you go. Whoa. They all also got, like, swept up in the stupid, like, Learn to Code fucking bullshit. You know, it's insane, dude. It's insane. Like, cause quite literally, that was also the same mentality I also had, because I was initially in game development. That was the stream that I was in, and whoa, it turns out that, yeah, I didn't really like the programming aspect. It just, you know, it didn't mesh with me whatsoever, and as a result, crazy, I ended up dropping out and going into fucking IT instead. You know, who would have thought?
Treating them as a spigot they can quickly turn on when needed and off when not, rather than a resource to invest in and retain through thick and thin. Every industry, of course, has ups and downs. And brutal as this downturn has been, growth will eventually return. The Bureau of Labor Statistics still expects computer-related occupations to grow 11% by 2033. The same, to be fair, cannot be said of all fields. Still,
Yeah, mining.
Starry-eyed 18-year-old back in 20...
Yeah, fucking Donald Trump wants to bring back the stupid mining fucking goddamn positions. Yeah, dude, because those are totally coming back, dude. Yeah, man. So fucking silly, dude. Well, those miners, they love being in the mines, folks. Let me tell you, folks, those coal miners, they love mining for coal. Their favorite thing to do is mine for coal. God, what a fucking sham, dude. And I've even had the same sort of take, like, learn to trade, to learn how to do a trade. It's the exact same thing. When I, like, saw, like, Howard Nutlick, that fucking charlatan, start talking about, like, guys, you need to learn how to do a trade. Learn how to become, like, an electrician. Learn how to become, like, electrician, a carpenter, construction worker, blah, 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 shit like that. It's the exact same sort of, like, mentality for learn to code, learn a trade, learn to code. It's the exact same sort of propagandistic trick, right? That's being employed cynically by a bunch of fucking grifting politicians. That's the main problem here, right? They have, certain, like, mentalities and, like, quotas that they want to, like, fulfill. in order to be able to get reelected. And so guess what? They're willing to do all this fucking stupid bullshit about like, yeah, dude, if you just learn how to do this like particular thing, you're totally gonna get like a heckin' super successful job. Yeah, totally. Believe me, trust me. Look at this like get rich quick scheme. And in a fucking environment where people are more and more desperate than ever, like people are gonna fucking fall for it. They're gonna graduate in debt, not able to fucking pay off their fucking bills and shit. And whoa, good luck finding any jobs because there's all these other fucking tradesmen, for example. Same fucking shit happened here with all these software developers and technicians, engineers and shit like that with the learn to code sort of boom. It's the same thing.
2016 could be forgiven for thinking that tech was somehow different. For years, common sense had been thoroughly drowned out by the increasingly religious zeal of learn to code. Learn to code was more than a gentle encouragement to consider programming as a potential career.
Dude, if the fucking learn a trade shit actually does fucking like pan out like I think it does, it's gonna be. I'm ready for like the polymatter fucking video talk about why learn a trade failed. I'm so ready for it, dude.
It was an all-encompassing vision of the future, unbounded by the laws of economics. That 2012 article from earlier, for example, compared coding to reading and writing, a surprisingly common sentiment at the time. The message wasn't that programming was a useful skill, it was that soon everyone would need to program. Otherwise, serious people argued that everyone from electricians to teachers to insurance adjusters would be coding in the not-so-distant future. If you accept that premise, 1,000% growth in computer science graduates doesn't sound so crazy. But if programming is not a universal skill like reading or writing, if it's still just one, admittedly often lucrative career among many, then it just means 1,000% more competition for a limited number of jobs.
Exactly. Yeah, like, that's just literally how it is. But for whatever reason, these motherfuckers make it such that, like, oh, dude, what do you mean? There's always going to be, like, so many of these jobs everywhere at all times. Totally, bro. Yeah, for sure, man. I don't think people understand just how like ridiculously frustrating it is just like seeing this get like I don't know, regurgitated back, because it's just like, dude, I fucking fell for the goddamn meme. I fell for the fucking meme. I fell for it. This is exactly what fucking happened to me. Great, fantastic.
1.9 million people employed in tech. Even if we double that estimate, it would still only represent 2.3% of the US labor force. Programming simply could never have absorbed all 7 million unemployed Americans. Never mind that someone still needs to manufacture the keyboard you program with, or feed the person who manufactures that keyboard, or prepare that person's internet. Tech is also at least as volatile.
Guys, it's almost as if it's like there is no one-stop fucking solution, politicians. Whoa, who would have thought that there is no one-stop solution in order to be able to fix labor shortages and fix the fucking economy, but for whatever reason, America seems to be fucking addicted to that shit. It's so fucking annoying.
As any other industry, the sudden and stratospheric rise of AI is a prime example. These ups and downs become more clear when we zoom back in time. This recent boom has just been so unusually long that, until recently, many young people had never experienced anything else. But learn to code wasn't just at odds.
Dude, I can't wait for the fucking inevitable fucking AI collapse, dude. Because I know, like, we've both been saying it, Boy Meets Mini, right? Like, it's gonna fucking happen. It's merely a matter of when and not if. Because it's gonna happen. It's unsustainable, the current sort of, like, project. It's not gonna fucking happen. Because, again, eventually all these, like, VC firms and shit like that, you know what they're going to start doing? They're going to go to these fucking AI companies and stuff and being like, all right, where's our, we've invested all of this money into this fucking infrastructure. Where the fuck is where the fuck are our returns? What's going on here? They're going to be like, oh yeah, there is like no returns. And guess what? Whoa, the fucking thing is going to collapse in on itself. Crazy.
With Econ 101. It was also ignorant of, or at least indifferent to, the wide diversity of human interests, talents, personalities, and life circumstances. Even the most accomplished programmer will tell you, building software can be quite difficult. Like any skill, not everyone will be great at it, nor, for that matter, enjoy it. For the same reasons not everyone enjoys working in an office, or sitting down all day, or staring at a computer, or working on a team, or solving complex problems on a—
Guys, it turns out people are really fucking complex. Looking at you, politicians. It turns out people are pretty fucking complex beings. with a lot of different wants, hopes, and desires. Whoa, who would have thought such a thing could be possible?
Deadline. This is all quite obvious when you replace code with repair medical equipment, study epidemiology, become a nurse, or any other job. Overlooking the wide spectrum of human skills, interests, and circumstances was convenient. And although it sounded empowering as a soundbite, it was often much closer to exploitative in practice.
Who would have
Learn to
thought?
Code reduced people to interchangeable units of labor. Coding boot camps represented the most distilled version of this one-size-fits-all solution, promising that single mothers, recently laid-off factory workers, and well-heeled, highly computer-literate 18-year-olds could all be funneled into a boot camp and emerge 12 weeks later as computer scientists making $150,000 a year.
Yeah,
Instead,
man,
many
totally.
single parents working 2 jobs earnestly enrolled in boot camps only to discover they offered minimal support for and couldn't accommodate non-traditional students. Former general contractors struggled to keep up with their peers who had prior coding experience. And since they were told learning to code is so incredibly easy, they blamed themselves. Thousands.
Bro,
graduated
learn to
with nothing
code,
more than a
forehead.
$20,000 hole in their
Am I right,
bank accounts,
guys?
3 months of lost wages, and a line on their resume that, in the eyes of many employers, worked against, not for them. Others, of course, were luckier. But perhaps most humbling of all, even many of them ultimately fell victim to learn to code. They did exactly as they were told.
I know I sure as hell did. It appears that I have also fallen victim to learn to code. I mean, I did eventually learn how to code, so eventually, you know, I guess I got over it by saying, like, I will not suffer from this skill issue, and I mean, I learned how to code in Cisco ISO or some shit, and some other stuff, but you know what I mean here.
Set their true passions aside and pursued coding as a career. Were admitted into a selective boot camp or computer science program, studied hard, were fortunate enough to land a competitive, highly paid job at Amazon, and after all that, were still one of its, say, 18,000 employees laid off with a stroke of a pen on January 5th, 2023. No matter how many times it's repeated, no matter how many high schools it's taught in, learn to code is no more a magic solution to economic uncertainty or job insecurity than learn to service wind turbines or learn occupational therapy. Demand for which, by the way, is expected to grow by 60 and 22% respectively.
I wonder
faster than
why.
Software developers. Everyone, everywhere, is at the mercy of the labor market. The only solution, the best we can do, is be adaptable and invest in non-industry specific skills like problem solving. Today's sponsor, Brilliant.
Sorry, Polymatter. Unfortunately, that's not good enough for politicians, because for politicians, the only thing that matters to these fucking motherfuckers is, well, 3-line fucking slogans that sound very good and tantalizing on paper. So, yeah. Unfortunately, we don't live in such an environment. Great, fantastic. But, you know, a lot of my sort of, like, personal anecdotes aside, pretty solid video. I think it's just, like, it's just an ad read for Brilliant at this point. Yeah. I guess I sort of, like, gave my reasoning for as to why I sort of, like, fell for this, like, I don't know, learn to code fucking sham, this, like, propaganda, basically. Like, because people are, like, different people, and it's really difficult to sort of, like, tell, like, what the hell is going on. But for politicians, they don't give a shit about, like, what people believe. They want to sell, like, a sort of vision for what they think is going to get them reelected, obviously. And if that means they can do this also at the behest of, like, corporations and companies, well, that's a fucking bonus, right? So, should be fairly obvious what the fucking problem here was with what learn to code really fucking was. It was something that was always going to be aspirational, because it turns out that the economy is complicated and people's wants and needs and desires are extremely fucking varied. A shocker, I know. Who would have thought that such a thing could be conceivable? Oh yeah, and you're correct, Boy Meets Mini. And let's be clear, Republicans do the same shit with the tech industry as well as the trades. Yeah, this isn't just, like, obviously Polymatter here specifically focused on the Democrats, because it was the Democrats who were pushing for it the most at the time, right? It was happening mostly under, Obama, and also, partially under Clinton, and, Biden also talked about it as well. Trump didn't give a shit about any of that stuff, because for him it's all about, like, LARPy, 1950s LARPing, even in this, like, first term. Do you think listen, it's all computer. This is the same guy who said that, but the neoconservatives fucking love fucking people who know how to program, because again, they can be vestiges for the national security state, right? That's a whole different topic in of itself, right? So broadly speaking, what can we sort of, like, glean from this? oh, it was all fucking propaganda in the end, and a bunch of people fell for it, and they got fucked over as a result. Whoa, crazy. Who would have thought such a thing could be conceivable? But yeah, like, I guess I mostly just wanted to take a look at this because I myself was affected by learn to fucking code. I mean, I guess I always knew I wanted to go into, like, a STEM field because I always liked tech, and I'm a nerd, so, it turns out that, because basically of how I thought about it, I was just like, well, you know, I can also sort of, like, get a decent benefit from this, because it's just like, well, it's also, like, just a good paying job, so yeah, fuck it. When I guess I should have heeded the advice of my parents, because they were, like, the only ones saying, like, you're not gonna like this, can you please reconsider? But I was being stubborn like them, so, you know, I did not reconsider. And here I am now, making fucking YouTube videos to, like, maybe 3 viewers or some shit. You know, self-flagellation aside, yeah, learn to code, guess what? Was purely a fucking ploy for politicians to get fucking reelected, and for, like, I guess to the benefit of a couple of, like, universities, because they were able to sort of further consolidate power under themselves, and also the emerging sort of tech oligarchy. Who would have thought that it was all a fucking sort of dumbass pay for fucking play scheme to begin with yet again? Crazy. Daho, you're telling me that politicians very often work with entrenched power in order to screw over people all the time? Say it ain't so. That's crazy. But, you know, between, like, the vestiges of the media, like, popular media saying, like, dude, it's, like, totally heckin' easy and epic and totally cool for you to become a super heckin' awesome epic programmerino and all this other, like, bullshit. Like, it should be fairly obvious and clear that I guess this was, like, kind of like an inevitability, something that was going to happen eventually. And it's just sad because guess what? Like, you become a lot more vulnerable to labor shocks, I think is the sort of, like, correct terminology. And a lot of people are going to suffer as a result, right? Like, I'm fucking suffering as a result. So, like, I don't want to, like, necessarily make this all 100% about myself because I am just one individual. But how many fucking people happen to this? But, you know, that's cool. So, as always, you know, complete fucking utter bullshit, this learn to code stuff. It's unfortunate that this is the sort of, like, economic sort of malaise that we kind of find ourselves under. And I also see a lot of this, like, learn to do a trade thing as sort of being the same thing, right? The same sort of ploy and strategy. So I'm very interested and intrigued to see, like, what might potentially happen. Because, like, I think, like, potentially, like, the exact same sort of thing can happen here with learn a trade when, I don't know, let's say, like, plays out in, like, 5 years, if it, like, takes off in the way that it sort of does. Maybe I would say, like, probably mostly amongst, like, Republican young men, probably, because, I don't know, they see, like, programming as, like, I don't know, like, beta cuck shit or something. Whatever. I'm very intrigued to see what sort of happens here. But, you know, I guess that's, like, sort of an outlining of my experiences with Learn to Code Mantra, and I guess, like, a sort of, like, further deep dive into sort of why it was sort of, like, a marketing ploy that was never going to really work out to begin with. That's really all I got to say about that.